Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the panel. I'm glad we're still focusing on this issue on behalf of the committee. I appreciate the committee's leadership in this regard. In the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy, we experienced the best and the worst of the National Flood Insurance Program. Painful frustrations, endless delays, in some cases outright fraud on behalf of private contractors of FEMA. Now, many have said that we should eliminate the NFIP and simply leave homeowners and communities at the mercy of private insurance companies. I think property values would drop, causing a housing crisis, a housing stock that is coming back. So while some might think privatizing the program is a simple solution, the truth is far more complicated and dangerous. Mr. Larson, what would be the impact on rates, accessibility, and community resiliency if the NFIP was eliminated?
It would be dramatic, and it would not only for the real estate industry, but for the people involved. So I don't think we need to start to incorporate private sector. In the end, someday we may want community-based insurance where the communities do the right things in order to keep their insurance rates down, tying those things together. But in the meantime, we've got to make slow transitions toward that, making sure we don't lose the NFIP along the way and those other key three legs. It's important to do that. You can't just eliminate the NFIP.
So when we talk about the financial state of the program, much has been made of the debt, largely occurred as a result of failures of flood levees by the Army Corps of Engineers in Louisiana and Hurricane Katrina. That's about $12 billion. And some have argued the premium should be increased dramatically to get the program back on sound financial footing. I, for one, think the rates are already incredibly high for so many families, and instead of continuing to ask to pay more, we should do better to control costs and make the program run more efficiently. And one of the biggest costs to the program is fees paid to private insurance companies to service policies and adjust losses. In fact, approximately 1/3 of all premiums goes to these private insurance companies and their vendors, with that number reaching 42% after Sandy. And what makes this number even more egregious is the fact that these insurance companies don't bear any risk. The NFIP covers all losses, and insurance companies profit risk-free. In fact, the GAO has found repeatedly that FEMA doesn't know the actual costs of their contractors, know how much profit they're bringing in. As the report said last December, I quote, FEMA continues to lack the information it needs to determine whether its compensation payments are appropriate and how much profit is included in what it pays write your own companies. So it's no surprise then that policyholders as a whole are paying over 50% more for private insurance companies to administer policies than for FEMA to do it themselves. So, Mr. Heck, the homeowners getting their money's worth with private insurance companies serving the NFIP?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I think that there's a lot of complexity to this that has to be looked at. If you look at the commissions that the Write Your Owns are getting, the largest percentage of that, I think, is what's getting paid to the individual agents, in some cases upwards of 20%. And the question is that the appropriate amount? Another question is, should you get paid the same amount for writing a policy as you get for simply renewing it year after year? We should also consider about whether, as premiums go up, maybe the percentage should go down because you're doing the same work, but you're getting more funds. And then finally, on the flip side, I think there's a consideration to, can we do things to actually reduce the complexity of the program itself so that the administration of it in the field requires less steps and is inherently less expensive? A lot of ways to take a bite of this apple.
When you have no liability and all the upside, you know, we don't like to have that business. But it's also challenging to me when we talk about increasingly moving to a more private sector-based insurance, that at the end of the day, what happens when you get companies that will cherry-pick the properties that are the least possible loss consequence, and then what's left? I just don't know how we ask homeowners to pay higher premiums to cover $400 million per year in interest payments to ourselves, to the federal government, mostly because of that levee failure in Louisiana. That's pretty crazy. And the final point, we need to do, I would say, Mr. Chairman, a lot more on mitigation. If we look at what we spent $277 billion on disaster assistance from 2005 to 14, with FEMA only designating a mere $600 million to its pre-disaster mitigation program. That's 461 times more money that we spent on recovery from a flood than mitigating against one. And I think we need to be looking at that mitigation element significantly as part of controlling costs, and I appreciate the Chair's attention.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. We appreciate your interest and help on this.